I've been working on the G.I. Joe brand, illustrating packaging art for the Collectors Club action figures and the occasional comic book cover for IDW. But we've got an hour to kill here, so before we get to any of that stuff, the year was 1990. And I got bit by a bug. No, not that one. This one. Yeah. I was obsessed. Command rings, shoes, signed Sergeant Slaughter picture on my wall, carry cases and catalogs with my cousin, who would later go on to portray Bombardier, but more on that later. Comic books, lunch boxes. I'm sure this is a story familiar to all of you. And I was also obsessed with drawing them. Really obsessed. Custom figures. But then, well, a huge part of my life obviously revolves around this brand. But at some point I decided that I wanted to stop just consuming, and I also wanted to create. So, Chuck, hop in our DeLorean here, and we'll fast forward through 22 years of tens of thousands of hours of practice, and art school, and countless rejections from Hasbro. And why does this keep moving on its own? And welcome to Explosion Bag! Why does it keep going? How do I stop it? Are we stopped? Maybe? Maybe.
That's it.
All right. Yay! Okay, for the panel. Okay, so after the 22 years of rejection, that happened. Hey, so why do we keep moving still? Jesus, okay. So this was my first job that wasn't really a job. After trying and trying and trying to submit samples, I finally said one day, how about you just tell me a character to draw? And Lanning said, why don't you draw this iceberg? And so I thought, okay. So I drew them the best 86 style card art iceberg I could that was more accurate to the figure. And then I sent it to him and he said, okay, great. But our figure doesn't look anything like that, so now just change what you already did. And that's your first job. And I was like, okay. And while I have this platform, let's go ahead and put this long-standing rumor to death once and for all. There's a smoking gun right up in the top right. This is an actual email from them. The head on the mock-up is not correct. The production head will be a recast. Why does this keep happening? So, stop blaming some poor factory worker for Iceberg not having a low-light repaint for a head, because it was never going to be a thing. The first figure I did that had all original art is obviously very special to me, because the Iceberg was based on the vintage style. And that is wide scope. So you can see at the top there, I kind of analyzed all the previous dog owners, G.I. Joes, or animal owners, I should say, to make sure that he wasn't too similar. So we tried a bunch of different poses, but the reason wide scope is really special to me is because I am wide scope, or he is me. You can decide. So, if you remember that kid that was looking at G.I. Joe stuff with me earlier, he grew up to be Bombardier. So another one that's special to me because it was pretty cool to 20 years later call my cousin and be like, hey man, you want to pose for some photos for me? Because I'm going to paint you into a G.I. Joe. But before we get to that, Bombardier is also special to me because I know his two dads. On the left we have Ron Connor, the man who actually found the original Bombardier, and Dave True, who later discovered his secret identity. So I always said that figure was always very near and dear to me, being closely involved with its history. So when I got to do that, it was fun to sort of turn my cousin into him. And he'd kill me if he saw me sharing these photos. So this one is another personal favorite of mine, just because it's always really cool to get to kind of develop an identity for a character, and Joe Colton never having a single card art before, it was really fun to do something unique with. And as you can see, we went through a lot to get there. It was hard to decide what avenue to take with this because his appearance obviously changed a lot. The toy sort of looks like he has the hair of a golf ball. The flocked head from the 60s. The comic is, more like a Eddie Munster Widow's Peak thing happening. So, but somehow we arrived at that. This one was a really unique challenge. It was a lot of fun for me. Why are we still flying forward? Because as far as I know, the only art that anyone had ever found of cross country was just his head on the file card. And they wanted this figure to look, vintage accurate. So I got tasked with trying to imagine what the rest of his body would look like without really affecting his head or the middle of his torso. And I think it was successful. So this was another one that why is this happening? Okay. Another one that I really liked because I thought he was a really unique pose, and it was fun to try and push the boundaries of what you can do with G.I. Joe card art. I think something that a lot of people don't realize about these is that the biggest challenge is probably trying to figure out how to make the art dynamic in such a narrow space, because it's very easy to have it where the arms are widespread or they're running or something, but you almost always end up getting some portion of the art cropped off. So to try and do something interesting in that limited space is a difficult challenge. And this one was like putting together a puzzle to try and not lose just enough information that he still looked like he was hanging. And here you can see some of the preliminary ideas we went through to try and arrive at that. But most of them were obviously way too wide for such a small space. So I know with showing some photo reference of models I've used, everyone's going to say, well, where was the bomb strike model? But I'm sorry to break all your hearts, there isn't one. On some of these, I just try to find a feature of a person I like, a good nose, a good chin, whatever, and kind of piece them together. And that was sort of the case with Bomb Strike, but she seems to be one of the more well-liked ones. And she's also special to me because it was the first female I ever got to draw, which isn't such a big deal now because there have been more of them in the last 5 years than there was in the entire vintage line. But as a kid, finding the female figures who were such an integral part of the story was a really cool thing. So here is another one here is Frostbite, which the head on this one was based completely off the 3D sculpt you see there. And I think this was really just a case of a great figure kind of leading the way for me because I think this one came out really great, and I owe that pretty much entirely to that figure because I think it's fair to say easily the best 13th figure, at least in my opinion. So I don't know, it's kind of faint on the left, I don't know if you can see it, but the pencil art. But Metalhead was used for the 2015 convention, and because he was only ever going to be used for a file card, that was a really fun one for me because I finally got to do a really wide stance because it didn't matter since I knew it was going to get cropped. So I got to kind of have him showing off how crazy he is. Interrogator. So this was another one that had never had a single card art. And I had a lot of fun with this one because I had a figure as a kid and loved him, but I really liked this design and I wanted to try and capture a really tough, intimidating look because I thought that him sort of, I imagine him beating the answers out of people that he wanted. So you'll notice he's unique in that he's the only figure that has two different colors of rim lighting. I wanted to kind of have that sort of good cop, bad cop thing going. So he actually has blue lighting on one side and red on the other. So here's Billy and my sister's friend. This is another one that I was really, I'm a fan first and foremost, obviously, as you saw. So it was a real honor to get to do this one. I know that he'd been a highly requested figure for a very long time, and it was really cool to try and figure out how to capture that persona for the first time. And here you can see that he did go through some changes. Originally, he was going to have a molded plastic six-pack from Rise of Cobra Snake Eyes, but that idea was scrapped probably for the best. So, Tiger Force sneak peek. This one was really special to me for a few reasons. To start with, because the original Tiger Force sneak peek was the first foreign G.I. Joe figure I ever got. But, question for the room, do we have any fans of the TV show The Goldbergs in here? That's a lot of fans. Alright, well, let me let you in on a little secret. Adam Goldberg, real life Adam Goldberg, is a big G.I. Joe fan. And I'm friends with him. And I told him, one day we got to turn you into a G.I. Joe. And he said, yeah, that'll be the day. Well, that day came. So, the next time you watch the Goldbergs, you can remember that little child Adam grows up to be Tiger Force sneak peek. Oh, and how jealous am I? The very first Caucasian male character I got to draw, I turned myself into, and don't act like you wouldn't have done the same thing. But I draw him, and now they've already made a second one of him, so I'm like, you got two figures, I got the raw deal. So Zaymod, this was another one that I, obviously growing up watching the Sunbow series, the extensive Enterprises, Zaymod and Tomax, everyone loved, and so I was really happy when we did Shattered Glass Zaymod. His appearance is sort of halfway inspired by the 80s cartoon and 80s Pierce Brosnan, so there might be a little bit of that in there if you look. Jonas Jeffries. I mean, no, okay, yeah, Jonas Jeffries. He's not in the room, so I get to embarrass him, I guess. Here's my friend Joe, who his body has been through a lot of modeling sessions for me, so including being hung by a scarf on duct tape. And there's my godson floating around in the background waiting to be my next model victim. Worms Officer, so this one, this was a real lemonade out of lemon situation for me. I love Worms, I think he's an awesome character. When I found out the club was doing it, I was like, I gotta do this one. They gave it to me, whoa, we're still flying in it, sorry guys. They gave it to me and they gave me some suggestions for poses and they said, so, here's what we want. We want him like standing there, right, get this, and he's holding this tablet and he's pushing a button with one finger. And I was like, But, to backtrack for a second, I didn't really want to argue that because they had also given me an idea for Ghost Rider, which was to have him kind of standing like pistol H hand like this, and I thought to myself, why is a hotshot pilot holding a pistol unless he's in distress? You know, that didn't really, so I thought, maybe for Ghost Rider we could do him like he's like a real like cocky Top Gun pilot, like hotshot arrogant. And they went for that, but I thought, well, you gotta choose your battles. I'm not gonna tell them I want to change every idea, right? So I'm like, so we're stuck with the Worms finger button. So how do we do something cool with this? So then an epiphany came to me. What if we just shot him from slightly above, and then the rocket was taking off over his shoulder, and that was why he was pushing the button? And once again, with that narrow space, he just barely made it without getting covered up by the Cobra Enemy logo. So that was a real marvel of engineering to actually get that one to work. And you'll notice I kind of got to do something else fun with him, is that usually the rim lighting, that orange glow that you see on G.I. Joes, is kind of like ambiguous, like it's really coming from nowhere, like most of them only have it on one side, yet there's a giant explosion occurring behind them. So if you look on Worms, he actually only has it up to his elbow on the top of his helmet, so I've actually got his side being lit by the flare of the rocket, which I thought was kind of cool. So Crosshair, this is another instance where I saw the figure, and I'll be honest guys, I went, ugh. And then this awesome thing happened. They gave him new web gear, and I was like, hey, he just went from 0 to hero. And then I was really excited to do the art. And then they said, we want him holding a sniper rifle, and I thought, do you guys know how narrow that card art is? So, I started playing around with poses, and then I realized that if I could just angle it just so, we could get it so that the rifle would go right above the figure's head, and we could actually manage to have somebody with one of the biggest weapons not get obstructed at all by the art. But of course, then I post this online, and I don't know if he's in the room here, but shout out to Fred Meyer, who says, well, you know, in the comic book, he's right-handed. Why is he shooting his gun with his left hand? And I was like, come on, Fred. But there is a reason, and it's because he needed it to fit over his head in that narrow little spot. So now we'll slide away from figures for a second and talk about some comics. So this was the first G.I. Joe comic cover I did, and obviously I decided to go pretty ambitious right out of the gate. This, at the time, was every Cobra character, or I should say enemy of G.I. Joe character. 280 in total, which, as far as I know, still holds the world record for the most characters on any single issue comic cover. It took 34 days to draw, and I'll never do anything like it ever again. Now, a little funny side story to this. I had been trying for years to get to work for IDW on the G.I. Joe comic, even years after I was already doing toy packaging. And I would write the editor over and over and over, and I'd get ignored over and over and over. And then I did this, and I think he was, you know, we finally started to get some headway going. And I kept telling him, you know what would be really cool, guys? We should do toy covers, because at the time that was just starting to become a thing. You'd started to see Marvel do a few of them, and I was like, I think G.I. Joe fans would really love this, and I have all these ideas for it. I got ignored, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the Ninja Turtles editor. So I told him, hey, you know, maybe we should do Ninja Turtles toy covers. And he gets back to me and says, that's too derivative of Marvel, we don't want to do that. And you can look at, IDW has now put out about 5,000 toy covers, but anyway. About a week later, I get an email from the editor of G.I. Joe, and he says, hey, is it true that you draw G.I. Joe toy packaging? And I'm like, are you kidding? I've been telling you this for 5 years. So then he said, do you want to do a run of G.I. Joe toy covers for us? And I was like, yeah, I've been telling you that for 5 years too. So here we are. We only did 8 out of the original 13 so far, but tried to have some fun with all of them. You can see that the entire thing is one painted piece. So the first thing I did was I tried to figure out a way to kind of separate them so they didn't just look like a photo of an actual toy. And so I had seen this cool effect online, which you can kind of see in the bottom right there, where people would take a picture of something that was behind their computer so that it looked like the computer was almost like a window that was behind it. And so that's kind of what I did with these, so the color on the outside of the card replicates the color under the figure. And I don't think they have a slide for it, but we made a lot of little, actually I do have one. So we made a lot of little changes to them to make them more accurate to the toy, or at least different enough to give them some added value. So like you'll see Cobra Commander on mine on the right now has black gloves in the art, whereas before he had flesh-colored hands, even if the toy never did. I also gave him straight arms on the card, which was never a thing, and he also has the Mickey Mouse logo. Zach has his mustache now, so they all have little tweaks if you go pick through them all. This was another one that came as a result of having done those other ones, which is Street Fighter G.I. Joe. And this was a lot of fun because if you look at this, I got some kind of full design ideas from both properties. So there's little bits stolen from all the different G.I. Joe 2 packs in there, the font and the colors and everything. It was also fun to get to draw what the computer video game version of Snake Eyes would look like. So if anyone's wondering how to do that, you just draw something, shrink it extremely small, and then blow it right back up, and it turns into a big pixelated mess, just like that. This was the Revolution series. I don't know if you guys read that, but Hasbro did this big combined universe thing in the comics last year, and combined G.I. Joe, Transformers, ROM, Action Man, Microns, and Mask. And so they had me do toy covers for that as well, and so I had this idea to kind of steal little bits of the packaging of every one of the series and meld them together to try and make something sort of cohesive. And then, I don't know if Hasbro was looking or not, but not too long after that, if you look at the San Diego set, the liner tray under the figures kind of has a similar effect happening. So there's the full set of those. So I don't know how many of you picked this up this weekend. Hopefully all of you. If not, Wonder World Comics booth has them. But this is the current issue of Real American Hero, number 252. And I'm flying by again. Anyway, it is inspired by the work of Patrick Nagel. I don't know how many of you know his story. There he is. But this is kind of a fun, interesting story. It has nothing to do with G.I. Joe, but I heard it in art school, and I thought you might all like it too. I was still flying ahead. Patrick Nagel sort of defined the style of the 80s, and so he became kind of a quasi-celebrity. And so he got invited to take part in a robothon for some heart awareness charity thing. So he did it, and he was not the least bit physically fit. And then they found him dead in his car the next day in the parking lot of a heart attack. Oh, but anyway, I had just been reading, maybe that was kind of a buzzkill for the room. I'll pick it back up, don't worry, we got this, you know, peaks and valleys, guys. I had just been reading a book about him, though, recently, and I was really on a Nagel kick, and I kept thinking, man, his style would be so cool to do something with G.I. Joe, and I couldn't find the right fit for it. And then I found out that they were doing this Barron's one-shot issue, and I thought, man, this would just be the perfect fit. And he passed away the same year that her first figure came out, so I was like, this seems like a real good, you know, we got vibes here. So that mess you see on the right is the scribble I sent IDW to try and propose this idea to them. And what you see on the left here is that over the last few years, there has been a lot of Baroness covers. So trying to figure out a way to stand out among them was not easy, and that's why I thought, well, if we did something that was extremely vibrant, maybe that would. So hopefully you guys dig that one. And here's some process work of that. So I kind of started out with, hope that gets fixed for the rest of the panel, guys. Sorry, I'm the early morning guinea pig. So I kind of started out doing this one with like a loose computer sketch to work out the pose, trying to figure out how we could do this where we could have as minimal info as possible and still show as much as possible. And once we kind of had that narrowed down, put that on the light box and trace the whole thing to be clean pencil lines, which is what you see in the middle, and then finally colored in digitally. So I mostly followed the Nagel method, except he would have painted it by hand, and I don't have time for that. So this is last year's convention poster, or lithographics, and maybe they still have them here, but it's just a lot of fun. This is Battle Force 2000 versus Bats. Not really a whole lot to say about it other than that I had fun doing it, and I hope you guys like it. Alright, this year's lithograph, I don't know if hopefully you guys also picked this up. We had talked about wanting to do something that really tried to encapsulate 25 years of JoeCon, as well as the brand's history. And we had passed around some ideas and ultimately came up with this, which was to try and pay homage to the 64 and 82 Joe. And then I had said, it'd probably be pretty cool if we could find a way to combine their packaging. And so I thought the wood grain with the explosion on it was kind of a neat way to do that. But if you look at their art, there's some issues with that. Namely that on the original grunt art, his left leg is totally straight, which would mean that if you actually saw his foot anywhere, he'd probably be on the verge of falling over. So I actually had to completely redraw the position of that leg to find a way to make that work so that it looked like there was a chance he wasn't about to fall right on his face. And then on Action Soldier, he kind of looks like he has no stomach. Like if you look at the original art, he has very long legs, so we tried to find a way to kind of get him proportional with grunt, and then sort of tighten up his artwork a little bit so that it was more reflective of the 80s style, so that they'd be a better match together. So up in the top left, you see some of the preliminary concepts. We went back and forth on trying to figure this out. And then while I was doing this, I discovered something. Did anybody else realize that Dusty and Grunt are the same person? This only dawned on me after 30 years of collecting. But so I kind of got to look at Dusty's leg a little bit as a cheat sheet for how to get what I was going for there. If you look at the top left, originally I was actually going to have Grunt on the left and Action Soldier on the right because we couldn't find a way to get these poses to work where it didn't look like they were going to crash into each other. But we finally got that worked out. And here's some process shots of how the original art was created. So I really wanted the wood grain texture to feel real. So we actually painted it on wood, and then the two guys were done on, don't skip ahead there. We got the two guys drawn in colored pencil and acrylic on heavy like printmaking paper, and then very meticulously cut them out with an X-Acto knife and glued them onto the wood. So if you stop by my booth in the exhibitor room later, you can actually see the original art in person. Okay, so now we're going to get to some of the stuff that you guys are actually here for. Top secret. World exclusive. Was their surprise, and normally we'd never do this, but it's the last JoeCon, so coming to your mailbox is Scoon. It's Treadmark. Thank you. So, Treadmark is unique in that I believe, Treadmark is unique in that I believe he is one of the first figures ever to have a, well, sort of full vehicle in his car. I wish I didn't have to, it was a lot of work, but unfortunately you can see all the way to the right side past that yellow under the figure, so I was like, well, I can't just have it abruptly cut off. So anyway, we got him there, and I think he's going to be really cool, so sometime in the next 6 months. And I'm going to give you one more sneak reveal here that you already got sneak revealed by the the demon in the machine here. It's Dread, not Chaos. I had been dying to work on this figure ever since I first saw him in the concept case like 6 years ago. I just think he's so awesome. He's sort of like horror movie, and we're just flying. He's got the Shadow Tracker mask, but it repurposes extremely well because when you're not used to seeing it clear with a skull underneath it, it really has all kinds of cool detail that you normally wouldn't see. So he was a lot of fun though, and I thought that he was going to be just awesome. I had all these ideas for him, and then they said, so we want him swinging his bolo and shooting his crossbow. And then I was like, what's a bolo? I don't know. So I Googled it, and it was some kind of machete. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. They want him like Jason, like swinging his machete. And they're like, oh no, we meant bolas, which is this thing. And I was like, we've got this like big, menacing, scary-looking guy, and he's swinging his little, but I think we kind of made it work, hopefully. So he's also kind of one of the unique ones in that he's got a really forced perspective, which you don't see a lot on G.I. Joe art. So he's really got the huge fist, small fist thing. So anyway, that is it for this. So I want to thank you guys. Oh my! Let's just yell about that. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Of course, I also want to give a huge thanks to Fun Publications for 25 years of great JoeCons. This is my 8th JoeCon. I think 3rd or 4th as a guest. But 8 years ago, I was sitting out there as a fan myself, and it has been such a tremendous honor to work on this brand and continue to work on it. You will be seeing more of my stuff in MSS 7 and 8, as well as the occasional comic cover from IDW. So keep a lookout for that. But yeah, so I hope you guys saw through those slides. Obviously, this has been a lifelong thing for me, and I love sharing that with you guys. So obviously, I would encourage you all to never give up on your dreams, because I never thought I would be up here when I was sitting down there, and somehow that happened. So thanks to all of you guys for coming out. Thanks to Fun Publications for doing this. It's been an awesome ride. And I wanted to end it by doing something special for you guys. So if you saw that slide that flew past at the end there, we have the preliminary sketch that was used for Cross Country's card art. And hopefully when everyone entered the room, they got a raffle ticket, because one of you is about to go home with it. So did everyone get a ticket? Anyone missing? We good? Maybe? Okay. Alright guys, this is all legit, everything's fair, I'm like a magician, right? Okay. Good luck.
Oh boy, oh boy.
And if Chris McLeod wins it, it's not rigged, I swear. Okay. Do we have 7, 0, 0, 0, 5, 4? No? Yes, all right. Look at that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You own cross country.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So we have a few minutes here. If anyone has any questions, happy to do that. And anything that we don't get to here, I will be here until the show closes at my booth. So feel free to stop by and ask away.
How would you describe your personal style in comparison to drawing these retro style G.I. Joe?
It's kind of a funny thing because I think a lot of my personal style was actually developed as a kid trying to emulate the look of G.I. Joe. So I think in a lot of ways that really kind of is my style. My favorite illustrator is Drew Struzan. I don't know if you know his work, but he's a very famous movie poster artist. He did the poster for like Back to the Future, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, all that stuff. So I really like that very like hyper-realistic, very rendered kind of look. And I think that that's sort of what G.I. Joe is. So I think I was sort of a natural fit for it because it really lends itself well to what I do. Even though I do work in comic books, I don't really consider myself a comic book artist in the conventional sense. I'm more of an illustrator. So like I don't really draw with a line. I like to draw more with like highlights and shadows. And so I think that it's the look of the G.I. Joe art isn't too much of a departure from the kind of work I want to produce on my own. Maybe the only difference is I would probably prefer to work traditionally, and the G.I. Joe stuff is usually finished digitally just because it has to be, because there's usually a lot of changes and deadlines and stuff. Anybody else?
Yeah. How long do you anticipate the comics will allow after Hasbro drops the license for the club?
Well, Hasbro isn't, I don't think Hasbro had any intention of ever ending G.I. Joe. I mean, I'll say that. So for anyone that's worried about that, G.I. Joe is in a unique position with Hasbro in that they actually own it, because a lot of the product that you see them putting out, Star Wars, Marvel, all that stuff, those are actually licensed. So they're not the one making the lion's share of the money on that. All of the G.I. Joe money goes straight to Hasbro. So for that reason, I don't think you'll ever see G.I. Joe go away. Basically, as long as it keeps selling, they're going to keep making it, I would say, is probably the good barometer with the comic. But I think it'll be around for a long time. The dawn of the Arishikage story has really given an uptick in sales, and it seems to have renewed a lot of interest for people. And they just announced a new miniseries coming out soon as well. So I think you'll have the G.I. Joe comic for quite a while.
Hey, good morning, Dan.
Hi.
I know you mentioned that you're more traditional in your art style. Can you share with us like what tools you use or what digital apps or equipment that you possibly use when you do your artwork?
I'm sure. So I'm actually kind of shockingly low tech when it comes to the digital side of this. I do everything in Photoshop, and I don't use any special brushes or anything. It's all preloaded stuff. I usually do all of the G.I. Joe art with one brush, which is the one that's like a chalk texture. And just lots and lots of thin layers. I work really big, so when it gets shrunk down, it kind of tends to look maybe more rendered out than it actually does if you look at it really up close, where it's a little more scribbly looking. The underdrawings though, like the cross-country one, that's all just done with like really cheap like mechanical pencils, usually like .05 lead. So really like, I think it's more just what you do with it, not so much what it actually is. Like I've heard like really good artists say they can paint with like a stick in mud, So I think that's really it. Like there isn't really any like awesome trick or anything. And I use a Wacom tablet, so I don't use a Cintiq. I actually look at the screen and draw flat when I'm doing it.
Hi, Adam.
Hello.
Now I noticed on issue 252 that you've drawn the Baroness's belt. It kind of swoops, it kind of has like a curve like this part, but in the toy, it's a little more squared off. I'm just wondering why you feel you can desecrate the Baroness.
You've been planning on fights too.
I have.
I had it drawn like that. That was all editorial's fault. They made me change it. If you ever see anything wrong with anything I ever did, blame it on whoever was above me. It was my boss, it wasn't me.
Of course, that was a joke. I mean, my real question is, you mentioned Drew Struzan.
Struzan, yeah.
Struzan, okay. He's also one of my favorites. I love his work. Have you ever considered doing a Drew Struzan tribute cover for G.I. Joe?
That's a great question. I would love to, and also I'm friends with Drew, so yeah, so that would be really cool. His stuff is all airbrush and colored pencil, and very time consuming. But if the right situation ever came up, I'd love to do something like that. I think the G.I. Joe would really lend itself well to a cinematic look like that. A Real American Hero, I think, has a very defined style. Like it looks very American and very like bold colors, bold lines, and it's only pretty recently with the post 250 like Netho Diaz run where things are starting to look a little like darker and more like anime influence and stuff that you're starting to see a transition there style-wise. So if they're willing to keep experimenting and trying new stuff with the comic, I could maybe see them letting me do something like that one day. But usually anytime you try to push the boundaries too far on a property like G.I. you get reined back in, because I feel like it's very defined at this point, but I will certainly run that by them, because I'd love to do it.
Out of all of the characters that you haven't been able to do artwork for, who would be the ones that you'd want to do the most?
A few years ago, if you'd asked me that question, it probably would have been Pythona, but we've really crossed off so many of the big names off the list that people are looking for now. Probably just ones that I had as a kid that I'd like to redo just for fun. So any of the stuff from like 1990, 91, I know a lot of them have already been done now, but like if they did like Major Altitude maybe, or any Ninja Force stuff, any of the really like, any of the wackier stuff, really crazy colors would be fun. I don't think it's going to happen now, obviously, but I've always had this personal dream of wanting to do Armadillo because I think he's the worst figure ever made. And I thought it would be such a challenge to try and figure out how to turn this dumpster fire into something cool. So, maybe one day we'll get the Armadillo update that you've all been dreaming of, and I can draw his ugly face,
Hey, that's my favorite figure.
Yeah.
You can use giant spikes.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. You look just like him. I didn't realize.
I look like a dumpster fire.
Back to your artwork, you did the special two-page cover spread with all the figures, with all the characters rather. That style reminded me of the Sunbow, was it? No, the Korean art.
Oh, the D series.
Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't really going for any kind of particular stylistic choice on that, other than just trying to find a way to make it easier to draw, to be honest. Like I was kind of going for almost like a Where's Waldo level of simplicity, because when you have to draw 280 characters to keep pace with the schedule, I had to churn out something like 20 a day. So I really kind of had to simplify it and get it more cartoony just for that reason. I guess I forgot to mention this, but obviously for those that don't know, that cover is sort of meant to be a companion piece for American Elite number 25 that was put out by Devil 2, which is the G.I. Joe team. And that one was a little bit more, I guess, like pencil-y looking. And so I did mine mostly digital because I was trying to just clean up the look a little bit too. So that it would, and I think I used a little bit more of a vibrant palette than they did because I really wanted everything to separate well. Because when you have that many characters, it's hard to not get it looking very muddy. So I think that was part of it too. But it wasn't really a conscious choice to make it look like the D series, but it kind of does, you're right.
Have you ever drawn the inside of a comic?
I've only done like pinup pages and stuff. I have talks with IDW actually about doing that, maybe like something like a mini-series or a one-shot or something, but it's just time-wise, it's such a full-time job to do interiors on a comic. Like that's literally all you would be able to do. And I mean, while I'm very dialed into G.I. Joe, for those of you that don't know, I also design costumes for the WWE and draw the comic for the WWE Monthly, and I also work for DreamWorks Animation. So I'm kind of, I have my hand in so many pots right now that just finding the time to work on a full-time monthly comic isn't really possible at the moment, but maybe in the future. Anybody else? All right, then I guess we will call it a day here, guys. Thank you again so much for coming out. Thanks a ton for the